Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're looking under the hood, so to speak. We're talking about the tech that powers a lot of the websites and apps you use, every single day,
That's right. We're diving into Ruby on Rails.
often just called ROAR.
Exactly. It's a web application framework, and honestly, it's been a cornerstone of the internet for nearly 20 years now.
Almost, yeah. And for this deep dive, where are we getting our info from?
Good question. We've pulled together insights from quite a few places: Rubyroid Labs, Monorail, Syndicode, Somatasoft, NetGuru, Monocubed,
Okay.
and we also looked at some really interesting discussions happening over on Reddit.
Right. So what's the mission today? What do we want people to take away?
The mission really is to figure out why. Why have so many different companies, tiny startups right up to huge Fortune 500 players?
Yeah.
Why have they chosen Ruby on Rails? And why do so many still use it?
Okay.
So we're going to unpack its main advantages, look at some specific examples, really show its power and how adaptable it still is.
Yeah. All right, let's do it. So starting at the beginning, what is Ruby on Rails? And, why did it make such a splash when it first came out?
Okay, so it was created back in 2004 by David Heinemeier Hansen.
DHA.
DHH, yeah. He was actually building Basecamp at the time, that project management tool.
Yep, familiar with it.
Right. And his main goal was basically to streamline building web applications, make it simpler, faster, more accessible for developers like you listening.
And it seemed to work, right? It really took off. I remember hearing a lot about this idea of convention over configuration. What does that actually mean in practice?
Yeah, that's a really fundamental principle for Rails.
Yeah.
And it was kind of revolutionary back then.
How so?
Well, instead of making developers decide on every tiny setting,
Right.
every configuration option,
Which can be overwhelming.
totally, Rails just comes with smart defaults, conventions, so it just works out of the box for most common tasks.
Ah, okay.
This speeds things up massively. It cuts down on that decision fatigue, automates a lot of the boring, repetitive stuff.
So developers can focus more on the actual features, the unique parts of their app.
Exactly. That was the point. It shifted the focus from, plumbing and infrastructure towards innovation.
Yeah.
Let startups, move much faster.
Makes sense. Less time fiddling, more time building. And the Ruby language itself, I've heard, is pretty nice to work with.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
Ruby's known for being very expressive, quite concise, meaning you can write clean, readable code, often with fewer lines than, say, Python or JavaScript for the same kind of job,
Right.
which isn't just faster to write initially, but it makes the code easier for you or someone else to understand and maintain later on.
And it wasn't just the framework itself, was it? There was a big community aspect, too, and lots of tools.
You're spot on, yeah. From the very beginning, Rails built up this really strong, really supportive community.
Which is huge for any technology.
Crucial. And that community created this massive collection of open source libraries. They call them gems in the Ruby world.
Gems, right.
So developers you could just pull in these gems to add all sorts of pre-built features, authentication, image uploading, whatever you need.
Like building blocks.
Kinda, yeah. Plus, Rails really pushes principles like don't repeat yourself, DRY,
Big ERY.
which is all about reusing code instead of writing the same thing over and over. And it uses the MVC pattern model view controller.
MVC. Can you quickly break that down?
Sure. Think of like a restaurant. The model is the kitchen, your data, your ingredients. The view is the menu, how the food looks when it comes to your table.
Okay.
And the controller is the waiter, taking your order, coordinating between you and the kitchen.
Got it. So it keeps things organized.
Exactly. Separates concerns, makes the whole application easier for you to manage and change without breaking things.
So all that together,
Aye.
no wonder it took off. It even won Programming Language of the Year back in 2005, didn't it?
It did, yeah, which was pretty impressive.
But here's the thing, that was almost 20 years ago. Tech moves fast. Why are we still talking about Ruby on Rails as a relevant choice for you in 2024?
That is the key question, isn't it? And it's true, that initial crazy hype, sort of mid to late 2000s, it did level off a bit as new things came along, Node.js, Python frameworks.
Right.
But Rails has kept this really stable, really dedicated user base. It might not always be the shiniest new toy, but it consistently shows up well in developer surveys. And crucially, it hasn't stood still. It's continued to evolve.
Okay, so it's definitely still a player.
Right.
What are those specific advantages then? Why are companies still choosing it today? What makes it stand out if you're looking to build something now?
Well, first off, that speed advantage we talked about. still a massive draw.
For getting things built quickly.
Yeah, especially for minimum viable products, MVPs. Rails lets you get that first version out the door super fast.
Hmm.
And iterating, making changes, also much quicker.
Which means saving time, saving money.
Exactly. Huge for startups, but also for established companies testing new ideas.
Okay, speed is one, but what about when that MVP takes off? What about handling lots of users, lots of traffic? Can Rails scale?
Absolutely. That's sometimes a misconception people have.
Hmm.
But Rails has this smart modular architecture. It lets developers tackle scaling challenges without needing to rip everything out and start again.
How does that work?
Techniques like horizontal scaling, basically adding more servers, are well supported.
Yeah,
And moving towards the service-based architecture is also pretty common.
gotcha. Any examples of this kind of scale?
Oh yeah. We mentioned Shopify earlier. They handle 80,000 requests per second.
80,000. Wow.
Yeah. And another one, We Heart It, the image site, they manage something like 60 billion images a month, all on Rails.
Okay, that definitely puts the scaling question to rest. So it's not just for small sites.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And Shopify's success really shows it can handle massive e-commerce volumes without needing a total rewrite, which is a big deal for any growing online business you might be thinking about.
So speed, scalability.
Yeah.
What else? You mentioned versatility earlier.
Right. It's not just for one type of thing. You see Rails used for information portals, complex e-commerce sites like Shopify, CRMs,
Mm.
content management systems.
So pretty flexible.
Very flexible,
Yeah.
which is why you find it across so many different industries.
And developer productivity. Is that still a thing in 2024?
Definitely. That concise Ruby code, the built-in tools, that huge ecosystem of gems. It all adds up.
Right.
Developers can just get more done faster. Some studies even show Ruby needing fewer lines of code than Python or JavaScript for similar tasks.
Fewer lines, less code to manage, potentially fewer bugs.
That's the idea. And because it's been around a while.
It's mature.
Exactly. It's a mature framework. There are proven solutions for most common problems you'll encounter. You can usually find a reliable, well-tested gem instead of reinventing the wheel.
Which must be reassuring.
It is. And that huge community is still incredibly active. We're talking over, 4,900 contributors on GitHub alone.
Wow.
So you get ongoing support, regular updates, new ideas, new solutions constantly flowing in that you can benefit from.
Sounds like a pretty solid foundation. Adaptable, too.
Yeah, very adaptable. Those libraries, the gems, the ease of integrating with other services. It means you can really tailor a solution to fit your specific business needs.
And what about things like security, testing? Are those built in?
Yep, Rails has strong security features enabled by default, which is great. And it comes with its own built-in testing framework called Minitest, so you can write comprehensive tests to make sure your application works as expected.
Okay, that covers, though, why it's good. Now let's talk about who is actually using it. What industries are really leveraging Ruby on Rails in 2024?
You might be surprised by the range, actually.
Ah.
E-commerce and retail are definitely huge users.
Like Shopify.
Shopify, absolutely. But also Groupon, Etsy, Fab, lots of big names you'd recognize.
Why is it such a good fit there?
Well, partly because of all those available gems for things like payments, security, accounting, all the stuff you need for online stores.
Makes sense. What else?
Social media is another big one. Maybe not always the entire platform these days, but core parts. Think Ask.fm, We Heart It. They used Rails, especially taking advantage of its scaling capabilities and API development.
APIs being crucial for apps talking to each other.
Exactly. Then you've got tourism and hospitality. Lots of online platforms, even big hotel chains you might book with, are using Rails under the hood.
Interesting. I wouldn't have guessed travel.
Yeah, it's often about handling those complex booking systems, large databases of destinations or properties, and providing a stable experience for you when you're planning a trip.
Okay. Any others?
Marketing tech.
Yeah.
Companies like Crazy Egg, they do website heat maps, BBDO, Accenture. They use Rails. It's efficient code, and the fact it can work with different databases is a plus there.
Right.
Software development itself, obviously GitHub is the massive example. Essential for code hosting, collaboration, something many of you listening probably use daily.
Can't live without GitHub.
Pretty much. HR platforms too, online job boards, often use Rails for speed and maintainability.
Okay, quite a mix already. What about finance? Seems like security would be paramount there.
It is, and that's actually why some fintech companies trust Rails. Spreedly, Square, or Block, as they're now known, they rely on Rails for its security features and its modularity.
Huh. Entertainment?
Yep. Netflix, Hulu, Twitch, even SoundCloud early on. They used Rails for its stability, efficient code, and crucially, those fast development cycles to get features out to you quickly.
Streaming services need to move
They
fast.
do. And, maybe a bit surprising, real estate is showing more interest.
Really? Why?
It seems to be about handling those huge property databases
Right.
and offering better stability compared to, say, WordPress for complex real estate sites you might use.
Fascinating. Even the automotive industry.
Yeah, some use cases there too for internal tools or even customer-facing apps.
Wow. Okay, it really is everywhere. Let's dive into some of those names a bit more. Shopify, you said they handle massive traffic.
They really do.
Yeah.
Their whole core platform, serving almost 1 million merchants globally, built
Yeah.
on Rails, handles 80,000 requests a second. And what's cool is they actually contribute back, maintaining their own custom version of Rails
So they're invested.
deeply. Their success is a huge testament to Rails scaling for massive e-commerce, the kind you interact with daily.
And GitHub, the developers hub.
Exactly. Millions of repositories, millions of users. Their backend is heavily reliant on Rails. They've scaled it incredibly well for really complex stuff.
And that convention over configuration probably helped them iterate quickly.
For sure. Let them add features you use all the time, rapidly. And while they use other tech too now, Rails is still foundational.
Okay. Airbnb, another giant that started small.
Yep, and Rails was key to their early growth. Let them build and tweak their platform fast for users like you.
And they still use it now.
Oh yeah. Still processing up to 80,000 requests a second, managing all those listings, secure payments. Rails is at the core. They've even built custom solutions on top of it for specific challenges, like payments, ensuring a smooth booking experience for you.
It's amazing how these platforms you just use have this common thread. Twitch and Hulu in streaming.
Twitch uses Rails as a core part of its infrastructure. It helps them push out new features quickly, which is vital for live streaming for your viewing.
Right.
And Hulu, while their stack has surely evolved, they relied heavily on Rails for their backend. From the start, managing accounts, delivering content, all the logistics for a service many of you subscribe to.
And Basecamp, where it all began, is still pure Rails.
Pretty much, yeah. The tool that spawned Rails is still built with it. They scale from like 45 accounts to over 3 million. Talk about proving long-term scalability and reliability for businesses like yours.
That's incredible. A real full circle story.
Definitely. They use it for everything, APIs, security, testing. It just works for them.
We've hit the big names you know, but what about startups? You mentioned Kickstarter.
Absolutely. Kickstarter, the crowdfunding site so many of you have probably backed projects on, built on Rails since day one in 2009. That rapid development was crucial for their launch and growth.
Makes sense for getting an idea out there.
Totally. Dribble, too, the designer community platform where many of you might share your work, leverages Rails for users, uploads, social features,
Okay.
and Fiverr, the freelance marketplace. Rails is key there, too, managing a huge database of over 6 million gigs that some of you might browse to find talent.
And there are just tons more, aren't there? Maybe less famous, but still significant?
Oh, loads. Zendesk, the customer support software lots of companies use to talk to you, uses Rails scaling. CookPad, the recipe site where you might find dinner ideas, manages tons of user content with Rails.
Right.
Couchsurfing, connecting travelers and hosts, maybe some adventurous listeners have used it. Rails platform, strong security.
Even Netflix still uses it for some things.
Yep. For some microservices and internal security apps keeping your streams safe, Groupon used it initially. Ask.fm, WeHeart. It relied on it for growth, reaching many of you. Crazy Egg uses it for their heat map tool that helps website owners see how you use their sites.
Yellowpages.com even rebuilt on Rails.
They did, yeah, for efficiency in helping you find businesses. The list is long.
Bloomberg, SlideShare, Shing, Urban Dictionary, MyFitnessPal, Square. I mean, names you see all the time online.
And Yammer, Scribd, Fab,
Mm.
even, interestingly, a lot of internal apps within U.S. government organizations that serve you.
Government apps.
Yeah, high visibility ones sometimes. Plus cool open source platforms like Mastodon, Exorcism, Dev.Keto's platform forum, all built with Rails, supporting communities many of you might belong to.
It really does underscore the adaptability, doesn't it? Across so many different types of organizations and applications you
It
encounter.
really does.
Okay, so given all this, all these massive successful examples, why do some people still seem to question if Ruby on Rails is, relevant in 2024? Where does that perception come from?
That's a fair question.
Yeah.
I think that perception often stems from, well, newer frameworks and languages getting more buzz, more hype.
The shiny new object syndrome?
Kind of, yeah. But the reality on the ground is that Roar is still a very reliable, very capable choice for building your applications. It's not standing still.
How so? What's changing?
There are ongoing performance improvements happening, like better JIT just-in-time compilation in Ruby itself.
JIT meaning?
Basically, Ruby is getting smarter about running your code. It compiles parts of it into faster machine code while it's running.
Ah, speeding things up dynamically.
Exactly, leading to noticeable performance gains for your applications over time.
Hmm.
And it plays nicely with modern front-end tools too, like React or Vue, which you see everywhere.
So it's not like it's stuck in the past, unable to work with modern web tech.
Not at all. It's constantly evolving. There's better support now for things like microservices, cloud integration, stuff that's really important for building the kind of scalable applications you use today.
And that community is still key.
Absolutely crucial. That strong, active community means you get continued development, support, and a huge pool of resources and talent you can tap into.
So the fact that so many companies, big and small, still rely on it.
It speaks volumes, doesn't it, about its stability, that great ecosystem, the productivity gains, the flexibility, the scalability. It ticks a lot of boxes for your projects.
And even those companies that maybe brought in other technologies as they grew, like Twitter or SoundCloud.
Right. That's a really important point for you to grasp. Even if they diversify their tech stack for specific, super high-performance needs.
Rails often sticks around.
Yeah, Rails often remains a really valuable, reliable part of their overall infrastructure, powering key features behind the scenes that you might not even see directly.
Okay, so where does it really shine today? If you're starting something new, what are the absolute sweet spots for Ruby on Rails?
Marketplaces are a fantastic fit because Rails has great built-in tools for handling the web stuff, HTML, JavaScript, and managing the data storage, which just simplifies development for you. Everlearn is a good example of a marketplace built with it that you might find useful.
Okay, marketplaces. What else?
SaaS applications, software as a service.
Right.
Rails integrates really well with external services. Think payment gateways, cloud platforms you might rely on. Makes building those kinds of subscription businesses easier. Instalinks, Swift Comply are examples there.
And for listeners maybe with just an idea wanting to test the waters.
Perfect for MVPs and prototypes. We mentioned the speed, but also its modular structure means you can make changes quickly as you learn without breaking everything. Saves crucial time and money early on. Harvest.in is a good case study for quick MVP delivery using Rails.
What about something like education tech?
Yeah, educational platforms too. There are gems for sophisticated features, and that MVC architecture works well for building interactive sites. Meducate is an example you might find helpful for online learning.
We've talked tech advantages a lot. What about the bottom line? Is it cost effective if you're starting out?
It certainly can be, yeah. That concise code, the libraries, it means potentially faster development, which translates to lower initial cost for you.
And finding developers?
The community is mature and experienced, so finding skilled Rails developers is generally quite feasible, and the rates tend to be competitive compared to some other popular technologies, which definitely helps you manage your budget.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. For you, our listener, what are the main takeaways about Ruby on Rails here in 2024?
I think the main thing to remember is this. Ruby on Rails is, it's mature, yes, but it's also incredibly versatile and seriously scalable.
Still powering a huge chunk of the web you use.
Exactly. A vast array of really successful, well-known apps across tons of industries that you interact with daily. Those core advantages, speed of development, that amazing community you can lean on, the rich ecosystem of tools.
They still hold true.
They absolutely do. It makes Rails a genuinely smart choice, whether you're a startup trying to get your idea off the ground fast or a big company needing something reliable and adaptable in 2024.
It really has been eye-opening to see the sheer number and scale of platforms, things you use constantly, still running on Rails. It really is this kind of quiet powerhouse, isn't it?
A quiet workhorse, man.
Yeah, a quiet workhorse of the web. So here's a final thought for you listening. Just consider that diversity, the social media you scroll, the sites you shop on, the tools you might use for work or learning. So much of it relies on this framework that's been steadily evolving for 2 decades behind the scenes, powering the services you depend on.
Makes you think, right?
It does. So the question for you is, what kind of innovative solution could you build with a technology that's proven to be this powerful, this adaptable?